Most men are silently draining their testosterone, energy, and libido every single day without realizing it. The culprit? A deficiency so common that nearly half of all adults have it, yet doctors rarely test for it. And here's the surprising part. Fixing it might be easier than you think. Welcome to Prime Health Lab, where we break down the science of male vitality in ways that actually make sense. Today, we're diving deep into a vitamin that's been called the forgotten hormone, one that plays a massive role in testosterone production, muscle strength, immune function, and even mental clarity. If you're serious about optimizing your health naturally, you'll want to hear this. And if this kind of content resonates with you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. So, vitamin D isn't actually a vitamin at all. It's a steroid hormone. And that distinction matters because hormones control nearly every critical function in your body, from how much testosterone you produce to how well your muscles recover after a workout. When you understand that vitamin D operates more like testosterone or cortisol than like vitamin C, suddenly its importance becomes crystal clear. Here's what happens at the cellular level. When sunlight hits your skin, it triggers a complex biochemical reaction that converts cholesterol into vitamin D3. This travels to your liver, then your kidneys, where it transforms into its active form called calcitriol. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Calcitriol binds to vitamin D receptors found in virtually every tissue in your body, including your testes, your brain, your bones, and your immune cells. These receptors act like switches, turning genes on and off, controlling everything from calcium absorption to immune response to, yes, testosterone synthesis. The research on this is compelling. Multiple studies have found a direct correlation between vitamin D levels and testosterone levels in men. One landmark study published in the journal Hormone and Metabolic Research tracked over 1,200 men and found that those with sufficient vitamin D levels had significantly higher testosterone compared to those who were deficient. When deficient men were given vitamin D supplements for 1 year, their testosterone levels increased by an average of 20%. That's not trivial. That's the difference between feeling sluggish and feeling like yourself again. But testosterone is just one piece of the puzzle. Vitamin D also regulates genes involved in muscle protein synthesis, which is why deficiency is linked to muscle weakness, slower recovery, and reduced athletic performance. Your muscles literally have vitamin D receptors that help coordinate growth and repair. Then there's the immune connection. Vitamin D modulates both your innate and adaptive immune systems. It helps your body produce antimicrobial peptides, which are your first line of defense against infections. At the same time, it prevents your immune system from overreacting, which is why chronic deficiency is linked to autoimmune conditions and increased inflammation. And let's talk about mental health for a moment. Vitamin D receptors are densely concentrated in areas of the brain responsible for mood regulation, including the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. Low vitamin D has been consistently linked to depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. One meta-analysis reviewing over 30 studies found that individuals with depression had significantly lower vitamin D levels than healthy controls. The mechanism likely involves vitamin D's role in synthesizing neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, the chemicals that make you feel motivated, focused, and emotionally balanced. So when you connect all these dots, you start to see why vitamin D deficiency doesn't just make you feel a little off. It systematically undermines your vitality. Lower testosterone, weaker muscles, compromised immunity, brain fog, mood instability. It's a cascade that drains your energy and confidence from multiple angles at once. Now that you understand why vitamin D is so critical, let's talk about how to actually fix this. Because knowing the science is one thing, but implementation is where most men either succeed or waste their time doing things that barely move the needle. First thing you need to understand is this. The recommended daily allowance you see on supplement bottles, that 600 to 800 international units, that's designed to prevent rickets, a bone disease from the 1900s. It has almost nothing to do with optimizing male vitality in the modern world. Most functional medicine practitioners and researchers now suggest that optimal vitamin D levels for men are between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter of blood. To reach and maintain that range, most men need significantly more than the standard recommendation. Let's start with sunlight, because this is your body's preferred method of production, and it's free. The challenge is that most men either don't get enough sun exposure or they're doing it wrong. Here's what actually works. You need direct sunlight on a substantial amount of bare skin, ideally during midday when UVB rays are strongest, for about 15 to 30 minutes depending on your skin tone. Lighter skin produces vitamin D faster. Darker skin requires more time because melanin acts as a natural sunscreen. The key areas are your arms, legs, back, and chest. Face and hands alone won't cut it. Timing matters more than most people realize. Early morning and late afternoon sun feels great, but it's mostly UVA rays, which tan your skin but don't produce much vitamin D. You want that midday window, roughly between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And here's a critical point that confuses a lot of men. Sunscreen blocks vitamin D production. So if you're trying to optimize your levels, you need that initial exposure on bare skin before applying protection. This doesn't mean get burned, it means be strategic. Get your 15 to 20 minutes, then cover up or apply sunscreen if you're staying out longer. But let's be realistic. If you live above the 37th parallel, roughly anywhere north of Los Angeles or Atlanta, your skin can't produce vitamin D from November through March because the sun angle is too low. If you work indoors all day, if you live in a cloudy climate, or if you have darker skin, sunlight alone probably won't get you where you need to be. That's where supplementation becomes essential. Here's how to supplement intelligently. Vitamin D3, also called cholecalciferol, is the form you want. It's identical to what your skin produces and far more effective than D2. Most men need between 2,000 and 5,000 international units daily to reach optimal levels, but this varies based on your starting point, body weight, and genetics. Some men need more, some need less. The only way to know for sure is to test. Now here's a mistake that costs men results. Taking vitamin D alone without its cofactors is like trying to drive a car with 3 wheels. Vitamin D needs magnesium to convert into its active form. It needs vitamin K2 to direct calcium into your bones instead of your arteries. And it works synergistically with vitamin A and zinc for immune and hormonal function. If you're deficient in magnesium, which about half of men are, you can take all the vitamin D you want and still not see optimal results. So here's the practical stack. Vitamin D3, 2,000 to 5,000 international units. Magnesium glycinate or threonate, 300 to 500 milligrams. Vitamin K2 as MK7, 100 to 200 micrograms. Take these with a meal that contains healthy fats because vitamin D is fat-soluble and absorbs much better with dietary fat. Think eggs, avocado, olive oil, fatty fish. Taking it dry on an empty stomach wastes a significant portion. Timing also matters for absorption and sleep quality. Some men do better taking vitamin D in the morning because it can interfere with melatonin production if taken too late. Others find no difference. Pay attention to how you feel and adjust accordingly. Now let's talk about food sources, because while supplementation is often necessary, food should still play a role. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines are your best options. Wild-caught salmon can provide about 500 to 1,000 international units per serving. Egg yolks, especially from pasture-raised chickens, contain small amounts. Fortified foods like milk and cereals exist, but they typically contain D2 and minimal amounts. Cod liver oil is potent but comes with high vitamin A, so don't overdo it. Here's the implementation strategy that actually works. Get a baseline blood test. You can order this through your doctor or use a direct-to-consumer lab service. You want a 25-hydroxy vitamin D test, not the 1.25 dihydroxy version. Once you know your starting number, you can calculate your needs more precisely. Start with sun exposure when possible, supplement strategically with the cofactor stack we discussed, and retest in 3 months. Vitamin D builds slowly, so don't expect overnight changes. But within 8 to 12 weeks of reaching optimal levels, most men notice tangible differences. Better energy, improved recovery, more stable mood, often better sleep quality. One final practical point: more is not always better. Vitamin D toxicity is rare but real, usually occurring above 150 nanograms per milliliter. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, kidney problems, and excessive calcium buildup. This almost never happens from sun exposure, it happens from massive supplement overdoses. Stick to reasonable doses, test regularly, and you'll stay in the sweet spot. Let's talk about why so many men do everything we just discussed and still don't see the results they're expecting. Because here's the truth. Vitamin D optimization isn't just about popping a pill or spending time in the sun. There are specific mistakes and misconceptions that can completely sabotage your progress, and most men have no idea they're making them. The first major mistake is assuming that taking vitamin D alone will solve everything. This is probably the most common trap men fall into. They hear about the testosterone connection, they start supplementing, and then 3 months later, they're frustrated because nothing changed. Here's why. Vitamin D doesn't operate in isolation. Your body is an interconnected system, and hormones especially work in cascades and feedback loops. If your sleep is terrible, if you're chronically stressed with elevated cortisol, if your diet is inflammatory and processed, if you're not moving your body enough, vitamin D can only do so much. Think of it like trying to fill a bucket with holes in it. You can pour all the water you want, but until you patch those holes, you're wasting your effort. The second mistake is inconsistency. Vitamin D has a half-life of about 2 to 3 weeks, which means if you take it sporadically, your levels will fluctuate constantly and you'll never reach that optimal steady state. Men will take it for a few days, forget for a week, remember and double dose, then skip another few days. This creates a roller coaster that prevents your body from adapting and optimizing around stable levels. The solution is simple but requires discipline. Make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. Same time, same meal, every single day. Set a reminder on your phone if you need to. Treat it like brushing your teeth, not like something optional. Now let's address a misconception that causes a lot of confusion. Many men think that if they're outside a lot, they automatically have great vitamin D levels. Not necessarily. If you're outside but fully clothed, if you're in the shade, if it's early morning or late evening, if you live in a northern latitude during winter, if you have darker skin, you might be getting almost zero usable UVB exposure despite being outdoors for hours. I've seen athletes and construction workers test deficient because they assumed their outdoor time was enough. Geography and timing matter more than duration. You can be outside for 3 hours in winter and produce less vitamin D than 15 minutes of midday summer sun on bare skin. Here's another critical mistake that's especially relevant for men over 40, assuming that vitamin D will work the same way it did when you were younger. As you age, your skin becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight. This means that the dose that worked at 25 might be completely inadequate at 45. Older men typically need higher doses and more consistent supplementation to maintain the same blood levels. Don't compare yourself to your younger self or to younger men. Test your levels and adjust based on your current reality. Megadosing. Some men hear that vitamin D is important and think if a little is good, a lot must be better. They start taking 10,000, 20,000, even 50,000 international units daily without medical supervision. Here's the problem. At very high doses, vitamin D can cause calcium to be deposited in soft tissues, including your arteries and kidneys. It can lead to hypercalcemia, which presents as fatigue, confusion, digestive issues, and in severe cases, kidney damage. The irony is that these symptoms can mimic deficiency symptoms, so men keep taking more thinking they need it, making the problem worse. There's a therapeutic window with vitamin D. Below it, you're deficient. Within it, you're optimized. Above it, you're creating new problems. Stay in the window. Another misconception worth addressing is that vitamin D supplementation works immediately. Men expect to feel different within days or weeks. But remember, we're talking about hormonal and genetic regulation. These are slow, deep biological changes, not acute pharmaceutical effects. It typically takes 8 to 12 weeks of consistent optimal levels before you notice subjective improvements in energy, mood, and vitality. Here's a mistake that's more subtle but equally important: ignoring the role of body fat in vitamin D metabolism. Vitamin D is fat-soluble, which means it gets stored in adipose tissue. If you're carrying excess body fat, vitamin D can get sequestered there, making it less bioavailable for your tissues and organs. This is why obese individuals often need higher doses to achieve the same blood levels as leaner individuals. If you're working on fat loss, that's actually going to improve your vitamin D status over time because you'll have less tissue pulling it out of circulation. It's another reason why vitamin D optimization works best as part of a comprehensive approach to health, not as a standalone fix. Let's address one final misconception that keeps men from taking action: the belief that testing is unnecessary or too expensive. Some men just start supplementing blindly, guessing at doses, hoping for the best. This is backwards. A vitamin D test costs between $30 and $70 through most labs, sometimes less with insurance. That one test tells you exactly where you stand and eliminates all the guesswork. It tells you if you need aggressive correction or just maintenance. It tells you if your current approach is working or if you need to adjust. The bottom line is this: vitamin D optimization is one of the highest leverage interventions you can make for male vitality, but only if you do it correctly. It requires testing, consistency, proper cofactors, realistic expectations, and integration with other health fundamentals like sleep, stress management, and nutrition. So here's my question for you. If you found out today that you're deficient in something that's quietly undermining your testosterone, your energy, and your mental clarity, and that fixing it was relatively simple and inexpensive, would you take action, or would you wait until the symptoms got worse? Let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway was from today's video. And if you're ready to take your health seriously, subscribe to Prime Health Lab because we're just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.
Prime Health Lab is dedicated to men's internal health. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.